Hi, my name is Liz with Big Hairy Dog, and thank you for joining us. Today we will be going over Retail Pro V9 sales orders. We're going to give it just a few more minutes. We officially start at 9, and I usually hang tight a few minutes after that. So we would most likely be starting about 9:03, 9:04. I do see we have quite a bit of people in. As soon as we hit our full number of people registered, whether that be 9:02, we will immediately start. But you guys do have a little bit of time, so feel free to grab some water or anything like that. Everybody joins the meeting in listen only mode. And as we are going through the webinar, please feel free to raise your hand or type out a question. And I can go ahead and stop and address it right then and there. We will have plenty of time at the end of the webinar as well to address further questions. And if it is something that we would have to dive into a little bit more, or maybe something a little bit more specific, I might hold off until the end. But again, that is going to be for more specific questions. But any other questions, feel free to just ask as we go through. Other than that, give me just one more moment here. We'll be starting in just a bit. And for those of you who might have missed it in the very beginning, my name is Liz. I'm a trainer here with Big Hairy Dog. Thank you guys so much. All right, so it looks like we have reached our registration number. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you guys have other people that were planning on joining and you don't see them in quite yet, please remember that we will be sending out this video to everybody who is registered. And it will also be available on bighairydog.com under our previously recorded webinar section. Okay, so as mentioned, today we're going to be going over sales orders. All right. So for our sales orders, I have a little agenda that's going to go on our screen here. And although system preferences is at the bottom of this list, we're actually going to dive into that first. I want to show you guys what I'm currently set up to do and what a lot of people tend to use as a base. All right. So in order to see the system preferences that govern our sales orders, we're going to start under options and of course system preferences. All right, from there we're going to go to local preferences, point of sale, and then we have our sales orders. Just to round out everything, under comments, this is where we can set up default comments and instructions. For a lot of people, they might not actually use these. But for those of you that are using instructions, are using comments, if you find yourself typing the exact same thing over and over again, take a few seconds to come in here, add it to the list, and then you will be able to select it from a drop-down menu. You could even set up your own defaults down here. Now, here under options is really where the meat of all of our preferences are going to be. Over here is where we decide what is suggested or required for a minimum deposit. And so as we're going to go ahead and explore a little bit later on in the webinar, we have different types of special orders, of sales orders, I should say. And those various sales orders break down into a customer order, special order, and layaway. Now, functionally, these documents look and act the exact same. Really, the reason for the the divide, the reason for the separate labels is to allow us to do things like this, take separate or set up separate defaults depending on what we're using the document for. For example, for most people, a layaway, of course, is going to be, I have the product, and my customer might not have the funds to fully purchase it today, or maybe just not the space. So they're going to have me put it on hold. If I'm going to pull an item off of my shelf and not let it be sold, then perhaps, yes, I do want a little good faith money, but it is ultimately something that I can put back on my shelf and most likely sell later. There's not a lot of risk there, but I still want to require that one. Now, a special order, that guy can get a little tricky because a special order is normally something that I don't carry in stock and I am ordering it special for this customer. Perhaps they are a very loyal customer and they want to purchase through me. And so I appreciate it, but still something I normally do not carry. And thus, although I am not currently requiring it, I am suggesting that full amount for the special order. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be able to sell this item if they ultimately do back out. And now last, our customer order. Again, very, very common. This guy is a little bit different from our layaway in that it's something that we do normally carry. I just happen to be out. And so I'm going to essentially put one on hold in advance. For some people, they actually don't require a deposit at all because this would have been part of my shipment. And ultimately, I know I can sell it. It's still part of my core inventory. All right. But I have this separated here just to essentially have something different. And so we'll keep things as is here. Now, under options, there's not really too much to look at here except being able to check off or off whether or not we can go ahead and it auto prints on a save, prompt to print all items or due items, and lost sale receipt. For those of you who are not aware, a lost sales receipt is essentially a non-receipt. Separate from a high security receipt that is created automatically by the system, a lost sale is you going into the receipt and purposely changing it to a lost sale. You're just telling the system, this is something we missed out on, and here is why. Under our record sale options, I'm currently set up to only record the sale after I have received the final deposit. Once I've fully been paid, then I can record the sale and take those items out of my inventory. Now, although that sounds, about right, most common, there are a lot of reasons why you might want to go ahead and record the sale at any time or record the sale before you take the money for it. Essentially, this comes into play a little bit more when people do have multi-store or their web is involved, somewhere where my inventory really does need to go ahead and reflect that I don't have that available anymore. All right, and it looks like we do have a hand raised. I apologize. Oh, where did that hand go? All right, I do believe that was Sarah. Sarah, if you have a mic, feel free. I've unmuted you. You can go ahead and ask your question. Type it. If that was a mistake, you can let us know. All right. So, Sarah, I'm not sure if you have a mic, but I did see that hand up. So please feel free to go ahead and type that question in. All right, for right now, until we get that question on the screen or we get the mic, then I'm just going to go ahead and keep going for right now. All right, following that, when I'm allowed to record the sale, we can go ahead and further that and automatically record the sale after the final deposit or automatically print once we've recorded the sale. Now, the automatically record sale after the final deposit, usually that's totally fine. I've taken the money, we're completely done with this transaction. But something like this, where a sales order, before I even place the order, I have taken the full deposit. that might not be appropriate. And then, oh, so that question is there an option to uncommit an item uncommit an item from a sales order? And yes, removing items from sales order is as easy as using a button that literally says remove items. We're going to go take a look at that. And also, before I move it forward, I do want to remind people the difference between your on-hand quantity and your available quantity. So your on-hand quantity is your true on-hand, based on everything that's been going in and out of the system via a voucher and a receipt. Your on-hand is the physical count of what you have in that store or should be close to it. Available is your on-hand minus everything that has been committed. So I love that word, that uncommit from a sales order. Putting an item on a sales order will commit it to that sales order. So if you guys do have online and in-store options, and there has been an issue between what is available and what is committed, I might say let's double check what's being pushed up to the web, whether that is your current on hand or what is available. All right, remember, available is on hand minus what is being committed. It's usually committed on a sales order, a planned sale. All right, perfect. Thanks so much, Sarah. And you let me know if we need to go ahead and divulge a little deeper, but we're going to actually get into that in just a second. All right. Now, going further on down our preferences here, we can go ahead and set up our back order messages. Essentially, this is what would print on my sales order receipt. And it's not always back order. So essentially, we could change this to on order, and that's just typing right over it. All right, we have our shipping methods, and we can set up default shipping methods as well, but that will be pretty unique to the individual users, what they use and how much they charge for shipping. Now, order status, really there's nothing much to do here. Normally everybody's concerns, issues, and what they want to use sales orders for can be handled by the Esso types that come already set up. That being said, we also probably won't use all of them. Let's go ahead and jump out of our system preferences. I'm going to just hit update, and we're going to dive right into our sales order. All right. So here in my sales orders, this is once again my list view. We can jump into form view, and that is the focus view on any one of those SOs. From an SO, I can actually also generate a PO. We're going to take a look at that in a moment. First, I'm just going to go ahead and hit new. All right, when you hit new, you're going to go ahead and have to choose your SO type. All right, and so depending on your system preferences, all of these SOs might not be available to you. That's okay. That just might mean that we're not using that particular type of SO. Remember, whether you're doing a customer, special, or layaway, the format of that SO will be the exact same. The ones that are a little bit different are our store registry and company registry. We're going to go ahead and show you how to handle those two. All right, we're going to start off with something basic. I'm going to go ahead and do a customer order. So in my setup, my customer order is normally have it in stock. We happen to be out, so they're going to go ahead and put this guy essentially on hold in advance. Oh, and it looks like we had a question. Great question. Are the changes to our system preferences under that options for each computer, user, store, or done globally at the main? And this is normally done globally at the main. And so they're the ones who are going to handle how we track this for the industry. In a multi-store environment, SOs through polling are sent up to the main and back out. And depending on how you guys are set up, for some people, they can actually go ahead and capture SOs from different stores as well. but more common is going to be, we pick up from the same store. But yes, set globally at the main. All right, from here, on a brand new SO, of course, what is required on a brand new SO is a customer and items. That is really about it. Lots of flexibility. So I'm going to go ahead and use the three little dots to jump into my back door, and I'm going to just grab Liz here. All right. Now from there, I can go ahead and type, I can scan. This lookup that is here on your SO screen is the same lookup that is in our receipt screen. So our point of sale users get really, really comfortable with this pretty quickly if this is something new to your setup. Now, I wanted to point out that I have something a little bit different than most people over here on the side. So I've used what we call a memo in my page designer in order to go ahead and have some instructions detailed here for my associates. So I'm making a customer order, and this is a little bit more for a special order, but on a special order, I'm training people to utilize item note. We do the method of a jackpot item, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that next. I'm not going to get into it too much right now, but it's a placeholder item, and this is what I need them to grab for what the real item should be. This is the descriptive information of the item that they want, and they're going to put that into item note 1 so my buyer knows exactly what they're looking for. All right, on this customer order, we're going to essentially just be holding some items that are normally in stock. All right, I'm going to use my doc quantity here, and I'm going to just go down this line. I'm going to grab 3 different items utilizing that doc quantity. In this case, my special order quantity. All right, now that this is done, I can essentially just hit save. Now, to bring back Sarah's question from earlier, how do I uncommit one of these items? As soon as I hit save, these items are committed. Ooh, reason code. Sorry about that. Go ahead and cancel that for a second. That's how you know this is a training environment. I set up need for a reason code. I need to turn that off. So sorry about that. Up over here now. All right, let's go ahead and uncheck that. There. All right, we're going to jump back into a special order, sales order, excuse me. New, and I'm just going to get us back to square one here. And I'm actually going to go and open up a special order. Like I said, the exact same thing. You can see on the screen, absolutely nothing changes, whether you do a customer order, special order, or a layaway. There we go. And one more time, let's get those items. There we go. So we're getting back to it. Now I've hit the save. When we have those defaults set up, as soon as we save, it requires or suggests that deposit. So for a special order, I actually have this set up to suggest and not require. So I would be able, and my associates would be able to say not right now or other amount. Now, sysadmin, you'll notice I am signed in using our sysadmin account, will be able to essentially kind of do whatever they want whenever they want. But this is essentially how we're going to control it for those of us who have those permissions. All right, so I'm actually going to go ahead and just say other amount here. And the other amount, we're going to take in 10, and I'm going to hit OK. Now, I did want to show you guys how this first required or suggested deposit works, because it is slightly different than the secondary deposit would be. But just the same, it's going to go ahead and list itself out here. The deposit does default to whatever we typed into the pop-up, and now I can just hit tender. All right, now this tender screen, although it's set up a little bit differently, should be very reminiscent of our receipt area tender screen and works just the same. We can take cash by just clicking cash, and you can do a pretty simple split tender. Not sure who's still splitting checks and if anybody would accept a check for $5, but we're going to do that today. All right. And now that we are balanced, now that we are completely at zero, I can print an update, or I can update only. The important thing to remember for a print/update, and that little error, that little pop-up I just had, it's trying to pop my cash drawer. And in this training environment, I actually do not have hardware. So that is what that little error was. And go ahead and preview this. All right. So for this particular receipt, this was designed to show the items that were on the sales order. This is our special order receipt design. You might notice, hey, I've tried to print this and no items show up, but the deposit shows up. That makes complete and total sense, because we really didn't sell any items today. All we did was take the deposit for the item. So by default, your regular receipt designs would not show those items on the SO. So we do want to make sure that you have the right design and it's pulling what you need in order for it to make sense. This is something that I would be able to hand the customer. They can walk away, and if they can remember, they can go ahead and bring it back, and we can actually scan that directly into our receipt screen, so we don't even have to leave point of sale in order to help them finalize their sales order. Right, we're going to actually walk through how to do that as well. Okay, so we are all set. We have officially taken some money on this SO. And so over here, I have my deposit box. This is going to list all of the deposit history. So I can kind of keep an eye on it as it starts to grow. Other than that, you can see totals at the very top with this balance due, deposit balance. And then we have, of course, our quantity sent and quantity due. Quantity sent, a lot of people think that this is specifically for shipping, and it is anything that has already been picked up. It's quote unquote sent. Right now, no items have been picked up, so no items have been sent. Great. So again, that was form view. I jumped back into a list view so I can see everything here. Now you do want to go ahead and be mindful of the date ranges that you are looking at. For a lot of people, especially if you are just starting to use sales orders, this might still be looking at month to date. We do want to go ahead and open that up, and SOs work very, very similar to purchase orders, POs. They do not clear themselves out. And you can see here, I have a few that are complete that are just still kind of hanging out. If I don't need them, I can clean up my workspace by just hitting that inactivate button. This one as well, quantity is 1, I sent 1, nothing due. We can inactivate that. So when you do inactivate an SO, that SO still exists in the system and therefore is still part of that customer's history and can be accessed, can be reprinted, can be copied. It's just inactive, so it's not in my field of view and not, messing up my ordering for later. All right, this guy here to inactivate, I must have taken the items off of that SO. But there we go. Now let's take a look at what happens when we want to put a secondary deposit on an SO. This is a pretty small amount actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up my customer order here. So this is a fairly old customer order, but we're going to still use it. So we had put some items on hold for this person, and they did not want to go and take a deposit that right then and there. And so they came back, let's say the next day, and they want to go and put a little deposit. So you can do this either from form or from list view. If you're going to do it from list view, we're going to need our SO deposit button on our menu. If you do not have it, remember that you can right click and menu designer, and you can add that SO deposit button just by double clicking it. All right, but of course, you will need permission to access menu design. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click on SO deposits from list view here. All right, and so it drops you into that history of your SO deposit. For this particular SO, we do not have any history. I'm going to just hit new, and we get that same suggestion. Do we want to do the balance or the minimum amount? For now, I'm going to say the minimum, but I would be able to change this just by typing over my deposit. Now, from there, I can just tender and same thing. Now we treat this like normal, and for now, I will update only. Again, that's just trying to pop a drawer that doesn't exist. All right, drops you back into that history of your SO deposits for this particular SO. If you're ever confused about where you might be in the system, you've done a lot of digging around and jumping around from screen to screen, pay attention to the blue banner that's up at the top. Usually does a good job of reminding you where you are. All right, so we've taken a deposit on a brand new special order. We've shown how to take an additional deposit on something that we previously haven't taken a deposit on. Now, I do want to go ahead and show you guys how we can officially record this sale and how we can go ahead and record it through point of sale as well. So I'm going to focus on the one that we made today, and I'm going to go into form view. All right, so right now it is grayed out, but I have a button that says record sale on the right-hand side of my screen. The only time that you can record a sale through the SO screen is if that SO has been paid in full. So we have the deposit already. And then we'd be able to record the sale. All right. Now, when you do record the sale, it records the sale for every item that is on that SO because every item has been paid in full. In order to go ahead and split it up, we would actually want/need to do it from the point of sale screen. Of course, if we were here already, I would be able just to say, well, they don't even want this one. We can remove it from the special order, and I can go ahead and take the final deposit and make the sale here. It truly does depend on, ultimately, do they want that item? Will they come back for that item? And if the answer is yes, we can work off of the same SO. We're just going to head over to the point of sale screen. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and treat this one as in showing you guys how to take the final deposit and record the sale through the SO screen. So I'm going to hit SO deposit. Remember, we can do that from list or form view. I'm going to go new. And when you take a secondary deposit, it will default to the full amount due. For us today, that's perfect. If somebody's paying a larger layaway sum, then of course we're going to just be mindful of changing that before we hit our tender screen. All right, but today, go ahead and say cash, handed me $8. Okay. Now I can go ahead and print an update or update only. For now, I will update only. All right, reminder to give that change. I'm going to use that Retail Pro button to back out one. All right, so this SO has been paid in full, so I have no balance due, but the quantity sent is still 0. We have yet to officially record this sale. All right, so this is where a lot of people find themselves running into problems. They've taken the money, they printed the receipt for the deposit, they hand the items to the customer, and the customer leaves. And we do have the money, but our inventory quantities are not yet correct. We have not done the final step. And that final step from this screen is going to be record sale. I'm going to click that. There you go. Sale recorded, receipt number 130. Would you like to print? And I'm going to say yes. All right, use my BHD40 column. All right. Now, this discount here, this discount is only because the customer I had listed actually has a customer discount, a separate customer price level. So they get a really nice discount on all of these. All right, but this is the official receipt. If you look down here, I should have pointed out earlier, and I will the next time we have a deposit. The Esso printouts will print out the SO number because you have not officially made a receipt yet. This here should be your receipt number. All right. It looks like we have another question here. Sarah, I know you said your mic wasn't working earlier. I tried to unmute you now, but can you record the sale for only one of the items? Yes, but we do want to do that from our point of sale screen. So you're a step ahead of me. We're actually going to go ahead and head over there, and we're going to do that next. I'm going to show you guys how to partially sell a sales order and still keep it on one document. We're essentially going to just reference that SO on a receipt. Oh no, please don't apologize. I appreciate you. Like I said, we're keeping on track here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of here. Say no. All right, so this sales order is essentially done. Now, before we do leave, I do want to go and point out when you record the sale through the sales order, the record return button becomes available here. You could take it all back and put that money back on the SO by recording the return here. And actually, just so I can continue to use this guy, I'm going to record the return. I'm going to get us back to square one. That deposit, I want it back on this SO, and these quantities, I want them back in my inventory. I'm going to record the return. There's my receipt number 131. There we go. And now we got our return receipt. If you guys are interested in the receipt design I'm using today as well, please let me know. I can make sure that this actually gets sent out to people. If you're interested in the design, but you want a little bit of finesse, a little bit more work done to it, and perhaps your store logo, again, just let us know. All right, so we are back to square one. I recorded that return, and now it says record sale one more time. I have my deposit fully paid on this SO, but the items have not left my store. All right, so I'm going to go to sales, and I'm going to go to receipts. All right. So before we go on, I do want to go ahead and point this out over here. So we do have all of our Liz M receipts that we've made today. This first one, I'm going to look at it really quick for $7.93 or 94, excuse me. This is the receipt created when you take an Esso deposit. This is why those normal receipt designs don't quite work. You'll see that there are no items on the receipt because they haven't paid for anything. This is just a little bit of good faith money, but we've taken that cash. All right. Oh, excuse me. Stop sharing my screen for a moment. It's just a little access violation. An access violation is essentially Retail Pro for walking into a room and forgetting why you walked in that room. Like I said, it's a training environment. I do have a lot of different plugins. So this is something that normally shouldn't happen to you. If it happens pretty often, you got to let us know. But essentially the fix for it is going to be just hop out of Retail Pro. Let it fully close and let it fully reopen by itself, but it rebuilds those connections if you continue through an access violation. Chances are you'll be fine for a little bit, but ultimately you start hitting more and more access violations to the point where, yeah, every time you try to move around, you hit one. It gets a little bit more and more confused because of that damaged connection. And so, again, best just to close it and then relaunch. Usually, if you get an access violation while you're in the middle of a transaction, it holds holds steady enough for you to go ahead and finish up that transaction, and then just hop out as soon as you can. Okay, I'm going to pop back over to my receipts. All right. And so this was my regular receipt that was created from the SO. Pop on over here. So here, of course, we have all of our items. If you look at the tender screen, I can see that the tender method used was deposit. Right. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit new. When I hit new, I'm going to go ahead and bypass everything that I normally look at. No customer, no items. I'm going to look for the sales order. And here we go. This is the sales order that we're working on. This is the one that has my full deposit taken on it. And we're going to hit OK. Ooh, a little slow, but there we go. All right. So now that we've referenced the sales order, it's pulled the customer from that sales order. I didn't need to do that. But of course, we still don't have any items. We actually, this is the way the system helps us a little bit. It does not assume that you are getting all of the items that are on your SO. So instead of throwing them all on the screen and forcing you to remove each one individually, it keeps it blank. We're going to use our SO items button on the right-hand side. If you don't have that button, again, you can right-click in Menu Designer outside of an active transaction. Remember, we cannot edit a screen during an active document. So we're going to come over here to SO items. And there we go. So a little different than we might see on like a voucher when you're referencing a PO, but still pretty similar. We're going to have all of the items listed. Here you do have the ability to go ahead and right click on one of the column headers, interface, and page manager. So UPC for me doesn't do me much good, but I do have some UPC information. Most of my knowledge is going to be ALU based though. So I do want to make sure I get that on my screen. So you can control what's here. And essentially, we're going to focus on the doc quantity. The doc quantity, remember, that's going to refer to whatever document you're on. So this is our sales quantity. And we can either go down the list and individually add what they're picking up today, or I can go ahead and say do if they're picking up everything. Right now, I'm going to say that they're only coming to pick up the small. All right, so I'm going to hit OK. And there we go. Now it's on my screen, and I can tender this like normal. I'm going to hit tender. All right, and we get that little pop-up. The Esso deposits work very similar to store credit if you guys are using that. So it will actually ask if you want to use it if it sees that it's there. The system does understand that these are tenders that point of sale users might not experience every single day. So it tries to go ahead and give you that heads up. Use Esso deposit, we're going to say yes. So I'm going to go ahead and take that full amount from the Esso deposit and OK. All right. So now that they're fully paid, we're at 0. I can update only or print an update. We're going to do that 40 column one more time. And there we go. So I have my item, I have my tendered, and you can tell that we tendered by the deposit and our receipt number again. Okay, we're going to go ahead and cancel out of this new receipt and jump back into list view. All right, so we have taken only one item off of that SO, and we used enough deposit to handle that one item. Now I'm going to pop out and I'm going to go back to our sales order. So here we go. Now this is where we're going to have some discrepancies in what was due, and what they ordered. So I still owe them 2 items. The original was the 3, and quantity sent, they only picked up 1, and that's exactly how they did it, through the point of sale. All right, now let's go ahead and pop into form view and take a look over here. So you'll notice my record sale button is no longer available. And that's because I can no longer sell all of the items that are on this deposit or on this SO. All of the items are no longer required. Only 2 need to be picked up. And because I need that different quantity, I don't want to be recording the sale from the SO screen. So the next time they walk in, we'd again start from receipts. I'm going to hit that new. They're going to pick up the rest of their order. I'm going to bypass the customer part of this. Keep missing it. And there we go. And one more time, SO item. And now, this is where I might want to go ahead and make sure to also have a sent quantity. There it is. So the quantity sent will, of course, give you a clue as is to what you still have due, what we still need. For some people, the due is more than enough. It's just whatever makes the most sense to you and your staff. All right, now from here, I really do enjoy that due button because sometimes it's just the easiest. I say they're going to pick up the remainder, they're going to pick up what is due. Oh, well, Alyssa has a quick question in regards to layouts. So her layouts for her receipt screens and SO screens don't look quite the same. So in order to go ahead and make that look more similar or even just the same, we have to go ahead and edit this. Now, we cannot do it on a receipt in progress, on a document in progress, but we use Page Designer to edit the screen. Now, if everything that you need, you still see it on my screen, I can actually just share with you my screen layout. And so I can go ahead and make sure that we get those over to you, maybe even just a quick appointment to drop them in and make sure that you have everything that you need. But those would essentially be the options. Either we check in to see who in our industry, probably our SysOp remembers how to use Page Designer. We also have webinars on Page Designer. Or I might say, let's set up a quick appointment so I can go ahead and give you my layouts, and then we can tweak them to fit your store culture as much as you need. All right. So taking a look at this once more, I hit that due, so the system is smart enough to recognize that we already had received that small, so it grabbed the medium and the large. And from there, I can just tender. Once more, it's going to ask if I want to use the deposit and hit yes. And I can take the full amount due. I really don't want to leave anything on this deposit any longer. We are done. Awesome. And you're very welcome. Thank you. Sorry, thank you for answering the question. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and take that. They don't owe me anything, so of course I can update only or print an update. For right now, I will update only. And we are all done. We have fully finished up that SO. The receipt screen is ready to drop you into that next receipt to help the next customer. And there we go. Our special order here is done. Deposit balance due is 0. Our deposit balance is 0. And we have nothing due, everything sent. This is ready to be cleaned up, ready to be inactivated. That's exactly what we're going to do here. I'm just going to highlight and hit inactivate. All right, but taking a look at this other SO. While Liz was in picking up her SO order, I realized, oh, hey, you have an old SO for this item. Do you still want it? She says no. All right, so we got to get this deposit balance back to her. And there's a few options. The simplest method is going to be to simply inactivate the SO. When you inactivate an SO that has a deposit balance, the system by default wants to put that deposit balance on the customer's record as store credit. They can come back whenever they want and utilize that store credit whenever they want. And in order to utilize it, all they have to do is be listed on the receipt. And then it will prompt the associate just like it prompts them for deposit. All right, so that is the most straightforward, but you might not be using stored credit. So how else can we handle this? So in order to go ahead and give it back in another form, what we're going to do is we're going to go to SO deposit. All right, so I can see that they have a deposit of 13. I'm going to hit new. And it defaults to the full amount that they owe me, but I'm trying to give this back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize a negative amount. I'm going to say this new deposit is for the negative $13 that they sent me. All right. From there, we're going to tender. And you guys might have noticed this before. I can actually now return in foreign currency, traveler's checks, checks in foreign currency. Now, the hang up is I do not accept foreign currency, traveler's checks, and checks in foreign currency, or customer loyalty for that matter. I do not have those as options in my normal tender screen. The only reason this is happening is because I am signed in as sysadmin. Sysadmin who plays by their own rules and does not listen to any security permissions has the ability to return in any form of tender, including forms that we do not accept. So that's really bad. And that's why we usually say you keep those sysadmin accounts in your back pocket. We can go ahead and handle most everything that we need under a regular administrator account or a manager account. But still, just remember that's why it's happening. If the person signing in as sysadmin is doing lots of returns, warn them, make sure that they know why this is happening, or give them a separate account and just make sure that we uncheck that ability to return in more than in different forms of tender. Okay, but the PSA aside, we're going to go ahead and just say cash, right? So I'm going to give you that $13 in cash today, and I can update only or print and update. For now, I'm going to go ahead and update only. Again, that's just because it's trying to pop my drawer. There we go. And we have done it. So now that deposit balance is 0, they owe me nothing. I sent them nothing. This is perfectly fine to inactivate. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit new. Now let's take a quick look at our store or company registry. Now I just want to take a quick look at this. A lot of people, they stick with our main SOs, customer, special, and layaway. Store registry, although is used a lot less frequently, can be a great even practice for people. But same exact thing, we're going to need a customer, and we're going to actually use somebody different, somebody who maybe doesn't have that big old discount. Let's do Angie. All right. So Angie here, we're going to go ahead and we got some options. So for a store registry, a lot of people go ahead and hand them some kind of inventory gun, and we just upload those scans directly onto the document. That is 100% going to be the easiest. Some people will have people walk up to them, and they use store registries a little bit more like a wish list. Angie's the one who's going to be coming up to pick this up, but she doesn't want to forget what she was looking at when she was here last. We see this a lot in boutique clothing stores. I've actually had even some bra stores that, people just wanted to put certain things on the list and not forget about it later. I'm going to fake it a little bit, and I'm just going to use our choose edit. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and use our choose edit, and I'm just going to get a few quantities, lots of bath mats. Okay, so this is my registry. This is my wish list. This is whatever we want to go ahead and use this as, but essentially it's a list that people can pick from later. Okay. And we have a question: can you convert a store registry into a special order? And unfortunately, the short answer to that is no, we cannot change the Esso type. But I do want to highlight that the document and how the document functions is exactly the same. So you would be able to go ahead and change it for like reporting if you wanted to, but ultimately there's no effect on the functionality of the document. We're going to actually take a look at that a little bit. Our last special order that we created, we went to the purchase order screen, or excuse me, the point of sale screen in order to partially receive against that. Store registries work exactly the same way. So I've saved this, and you'll see it required no deposit. This is something a little different. This is one of the key differences with the registry, is that I cannot put a deposit on this. So that's another valid reason to want to make this into a different Esso type. Again, if I go ahead and hit edit, even as sysadmin, I have no ability to get into this Esso type area, okay? We would have to go ahead and remake this as a special order if they wanted to leave money on it. Now, let's come on over here. But that's essentially it for the registry part of it. So I like to go through it even though it's not used, just because it's so simple. Customer, all the stuff they want. That's really about it. Now we can go ahead and hit new, and the exact same thing. People come in and you're actually using it for the registry part. Then someone will come in and they will ask, or they'll tell you what the event is under, that kind of thing. We didn't get too far into our dates, and actually I'm set up to show more of our sales order type information, but we can set up our event date as well, so you kind of know when you're good to start inactivating that Esso, that registry. All right, so again, I've referenced the store registry, and now I can come over here to Esso items, and I can go ahead and select what they're picking up. For a store registry, you can actually also print out the Esso and hand it to the customer, or hand it to the person who's walked in, so they can walk around and decide which one they wanted to pick up. And of course, having that quantity due and quantity sent right on the screen can help you let that customer know, oh, they've actually already picked up that item, or somebody else has already picked up that item. We're going to go ahead and pick up a few and then hit OK. All right. And just the same, I'd be able to go ahead and ring this up and tender it. But from here on out, works just like your regular receipt would, because we are not dealing with deposits, remember. Take cash. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and just update only. Again, that's the cash drawer. Okay. Hop back to our sales orders. Okay. All right. So this is something that we would be able to print out and hand somebody. So this is on a generic 40 column. We can also set it up as a letter, but this is something that somebody would be able to see what the item was, see the price of it, see what has already been picked up and what's available for them to still pick up. They know. I might want to go ahead and make the descriptions just a little bit longer on that, but I'm just nitpicking now. All right, but now we can go ahead and still see our quantity due, quantity sent. Again, for a registry, we're never going to have a deposit balance. So inactivating them is also really straightforward. Once that event date comes around and I know that they're not going to be picking up for that special order anymore, I can just inactivate. All right. So one more thing about our special order that I didn't get too far into last time. All right. So I must have gotten rid of it here. So special order items. Again, those guys are going to be the ones that I do not normally carry this. And I do want people to go ahead and put a little bit of money, but sometimes it can be hard because we might not know what the final cost of that item is going to be. To tackle that, people usually do one of two things. Either we get all of the information from the customer and keep it out of Retail Pro for now until my buyer gets a chance to figure out exactly how much it's going to be and how much we're ultimately going to charge the client. And it's not until that point that it gets thrown into the system so I can take the full deposit. I can take 100% of that deposit right then and there. That is, although we are keeping information away from Retail Pro for a little bit, that is one of the easiest ways to ensure that what we charge the client and what they, ultimately are going to need to go ahead and pay is accurate. No difference. They're just going to walk in and be able to pick it up. The other method is we use a jackpot item to essentially just wait and hold off. We might not know the official cost just yet, but I'm going to get all the information I can, and then we're going to order it, and I'm going to figure out what that is for you. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at that. All right, go ahead and grab good old John here. I'm going to create a quick item because I must have inactivated my old Esso item or reused it. All right, my Retail Pro always gets a little shy when I'm doing webinars. Okay. I'm going to leave it at no cost and no price right now. And I'm just going to hit save. Now, I'm building a new item through an Esso. Very similar to building a new item on a purchase order or a sales receipt, as rare as that second one is. You do have to save the item before you are allowed to enter anything into the doc values. So the item has to exist before I'm allowed to put it on the document. All right. So once I use my SO item here, when I try to get a zero priced item on a document, like a sales order or a receipt, it will prompt for a price. And for now, I'm going to say 0. All right. So this is just an Esso item. I have no other descriptive information. In that case, I'm going to use my item note field. And that's where I pulled in this item note reminder. This is what I need in order for the buyer to be able to do their job and figure out how much this is going to cost the customer. So we need, of course, that description. I need to know the vendor or where to start to look. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, actually, added the vendor in my record attribute. Maybe it has an attribute. We're going to essentially just put all the information, 5, whatever this is. And reference item number, this is something specific to one of my clients, but they were coming from version 8. They had old item numbers that they're accustomed to using that has then been moved to ALU. So for a lot of you, you can use this idea, but it would be reference ALU, reference alternate lookup. And essentially this is, if we carry something similar in stock, but it's not the same thing, perhaps it's a different color size combination, or perhaps it's a different season, something like that, I can go ahead and put in that reference number. So again, the buyer just has a little bit more to go on. All right. We're going to hit OK. And so that's all going to live under item note. Now from here, I can just essentially save that. Now you see, we are requiring, well, we are suggesting, not requiring, 100% of our special orders. And so this is how I would get around it if I did not know the cost and what I ultimately will sell it for. So I can go ahead and just say, yeah, I'll take a 0 deposit because I'm not charging the customer at this time. For now, I'm going to go ahead and say not now. All right. So now it's saved and it exists. And from here, it's in the hands of my buyer. So my buyer would then do their research and again, has some options. We can either come in here and change the price of this Esso item if we are not going to keep this item as an actual item in our inventory. We could then receive the quote unquote Esso item and then sell it on this special order. What probably is a little bit more likely is that we keep it as an item in our inventory. Even if I don't use it, I can inactivate it. But now I know there's been at least one instance where somebody has asked for this item. And perhaps if I get another one, that's really the cue that I need to keep this item in stock. All right, so I know this is not a voucher webinar, so I'm not going to go ahead and do too much here. Oh, excuse me, try to reference the PO. All right, so I got AAA supplies here. Come on, there it is. So what like I said, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to build the real item and I'm going to receive the real item. And at this point, we already know the cost of the item, so we already know what the retail might be. So I would be able to go ahead and call up my customer, let them know, make sure that they're comfortable with it before I even officially place the order. All right, we're going to go ahead and use the same stuff here. Okay, I'm not very creative. So this is where you would type the true Esso item description. Whatever that item actually was, we're building it honestly here in the system. And remember, they asked for a red, and I remember that the size was a size 5. And whatever this item ended up being, it cost me $25. So I'm going to charge them $60. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and save that guy and hit OK. All right. And I could have done this outside of a voucher. I could have just done it in the inventory screen. I could have done it from a PO. The only reason I did it through the voucher screen was to get it into my system as quickly as possible for our training here. All right. But again, we use a placeholder item on the SO. We give all the information we can to our buyer. Our buyer will then create the item in Retail Pro, whether that be through a purchase order or just in inventory. And then we can receive it when it finally gets here. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that, and I'm going to update only. Inventory will be updated. Yes. Okay. We're not quite ready for the customer to come in just yet. Final little step is going to be, we want to go ahead and replace our placeholder item with the real item. So I can go ahead and jump into choose edit item. There it is. All right. Now, highlighting my placeholder SO item, I can just hit remove item. And there we go. Now this SO is ready to be worked on in its entirety. John can show up and give me a deposit for this $60 item, kind of treat it a little bit more like a layaway. John can show up today and I can record the sale if he wants to give me the full deposit from the SO screen. Or if I'm already on a point of sale transaction, I can start a new transaction, reference John's SO number, and then he can go ahead and then sell him his actual item for the $60. And I really don't have to deal with deposit, even though this is a special order. All right. And so all of that was a lot. There's a lot when you're dealing with the special order items and what we call the jackpot row, those placeholder items that are meant to replace and just hold a spot so that you can put the information to Retail Pro. Again, as a reminder, the other method of doing it is we hang tight. I've seen people create different mock-up forms, and we can actually help you create those mock-up forms as well. But we have our client fill out a form to the best of their ability, and we help them where we can. From there, we hand that form over to the buyer, and once the buyer has the information, that's when the information is put into Retail Pro. You do get to avoid the needing to replace the item part, that essentially that last step. But at the end of the day, both are very valid. It just depends on how you want to track reporting. All right. So we've kind of gone a little bit out of order here, but we've gone through, of course, creating our sales orders, different types of sales orders, and big takeaway from that is that except for the registries, sales orders work the exact same way. The only additional thing with the registries is that you cannot hold a deposit on a registry. It's really the only difference. Screen's exactly the same. We went over how we can take that first deposit, how we can avoid it if we need to. We also looked at how to go ahead and take a secondary deposit once we pass that initial save. We took a look at refunding a deposit, although that was fairly quick. If anybody has any questions, we can go back to that, of course. And we talked about generating it from, oh, actually, I did not talk about generating it from a receipt. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and head on over here. Talked about fulfilling a partial order through a receipt, what we talked about. And I got to make sure I have what I need on my screen. And that is the Generate SO button. So a good example, if we're missing any of the buttons we've been working with today, remember it's going to right click and just double click it to get it over to the right hand side. Okay, now I'm going to hit new. Let's actually go ahead and get items. Oh, that one. All right, we got a different John. All right, so when you're generating an Esso from a receipt, the button will not be available until we have a customer listed. Remember, that is essentially all that is required on an Esso, is a customer and the items. So right here from a sales receipt, we've started to build the sale and realize, actually, maybe I don't have the exact quantity that he wanted. Maybe I only have one of each of these on the floor, but for whatever reason, we need 6. And he wants them all at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate an SO. So we can either discard the original receipt or hold the original receipt. I'm going to discard the original receipt. That's usually going to be most appropriate. There are times where we might just want to hold it. But now that the SO exists, essentially I'd want to go ahead and start a new receipt and reference the SO. I think that's the cleanest way of running it and seems to be the problem, or it seems to be the method where people understand the easiest. Just discard and kind of begin from scratch. All right, so the SO type, just the same. We're changing this receipt into an SO. What kind of SO are we making? And for now, I'm going to go ahead and say a customer order because I don't have the quantity to fulfill what they want. All right, so there we go. Now it's added all the items to the SO, it's added John to the SO, and it's trying to save my customer order. So it's asking me about that deposit. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and take the minimum. So I'm going to just hit minimum. It'll default to that here, and I can tender. Let's say John's going to pay that in card. Now, this might be a little different from the way that you guys are set up. I am not fully integrated. I do not have hardware on this machine, so I do have to select the card type. If you are integrated with Cayenne TSYS Global Payments, it will default. Essentially, the PIN pad will handle it all. All right, but there we go. And now I can update only, print and update. Go ahead and do our print and update. One more time, our BHD Esso deposit. Preview this. All right, so this is what John is waiting on. I can go ahead and see the deposit balance he left me with, and then what is still due. All right. Oh, actually, before I leave here, and again, you know this is not a regular receipt. This is printing the sales order number. Oh, I meant no. All right, sales order has been created. Do you wish to print it? We can, but I printed the deposit, and that's going to work just fine. All right. And then it drops you back into your regular receipt screen, and I can just hit new, and I can help the next customer in line. All right. Now, remember, I'm in receipts. So I'm going to hop out and go back to my sales order. And here is that sales order from John now. And like I said, now I can treat this like a normal sales order. I can take the final deposit here on the SO screen and then record the sale from the SO screen if he's picking up everything all in one go. Or I can just reference this SO from a brand new receipt where it will allow me to use the deposit and take the remaining in order to fulfill the SO. All right, I'm glad we got that one out of the way. Now, recording the sale against the sales order, we did talk about this as well. The importance of doing that is to maintain that you have appropriate inventory control. Yes, we got the money, but if we don't take that final step of recording the sale or finishing it on the purchase order, our quantities are not accurate. Oh, again, we did talk about that record sale button and what it does on point of sale. In order to use it, we do need to have the full deposit paid. And we looked at referencing an Esso from a receipt. Okay, let's take a look at some reporting. Reporting for sales orders is pretty straightforward. The more detailed is going to be here under journals. Now, normally, we point you to the big hairy dog reports. We do have an Esso fulfillment report that's pretty standard, pretty straightforward. But for Essos, the core reports that come out of Retail Pro, they actually did I don't mean to sound as surprised, but they actually did a pretty good job of giving you different options, and they're pretty readable, pretty solid. So we can go ahead and essentially run our Essos. Let me go ahead and show our Esso deposit with details. I'm going to run this. All right, now I have the ability to filter for a specific department, class, and or vendor. But really all I'm concerned about today is my order date. I'm going to go ahead and do month to date on that. So this is, again, the sell from, sell recorded. This is going to go ahead and kind of apply more to multi-store environments. Other than that, and you probably won't ever use this. Now, again, Essos, the most important things are going to be dates. And that's what we need to get comfortable with filtering. And that's where we need to understand the difference between the dates. The order date versus the ship date versus the cancel date versus what our deposit date is. All right. Now, Esso type. Again, I can go ahead and run this for a specific type. So this, I can save a copy of this report and it can be my customer order version. And then I can have a separate special order and a separate layaway. For today, doesn't matter. I want to look at all of them. If I have a deposit anywhere, I need you to show me what that's being held for. All right. And so, again, pretty standard. They tried to go ahead and match the titles to match the coloring to the report area. With a lot of these Esso journals, fulfillment reports, they can get a little bit hard to read because they're trying to fit it all in one page. Instead of building outwards and forcing you to have to export to Excel every time, they build down a little bit. So in the blue, we're expecting to see Esso number, Esso type, bill to name, order date, and ship and cancel if we have it. But I actually did not fill those dates in on the Esso. They were not required. From there, then we have our DCS Vendor Description 1, ALU, attribute, and size. That is our item level detail. So here we go. This is one Esso. Here's my Esso number, and this is who it's assigned to. And here is that item detail. All right. Now the deposit details, again, is essentially cashier information, who took that down. All right, this is a different Esso. And I can tell because that's John Q. This one's John, and here are the items on John. All right, again, so this is the deposit details. We know that it was a credit card, and then we have our history, which is essentially just, what store. All right. So it's store and then store station. And then in my setup, that's going to be the exact same thing. All right, now you might be thinking to yourself, we had a lot more Essos than this. This is only looking at active Essos. It is not looking at anything we've inactivated. That is the other really important part about maintaining a clean Esso file. It makes reporting so much easier because your reports are already looking for those active ones. And it gets much harder to separate what is old or what is really not going to get picked up anymore if it's all just active and never removed from the list. All right. So that's a deposit journal with details. So that was focused on where I had money being held. That's essentially what I'm liable for. Now, our unfilled Esso journal, I like this one. Let's go ahead and the unfilled percentage. And I don't necessarily like how the verbiage sounds, but unfilled 0 to 100% would mean that we still owe them some information, and it's not really a good filter criteria in my opinion. Essentially, if I owe anybody, I want you to show me. Now again, we have access to all our customer user defined fields here, so we have a lot further reach into the customer database with this. And let's go ahead and use, let's let this run open actually. All right. So it'll break it out for you by store, Esso counts, total, and then what's due. And again, here, kind of the same thing. We have our first row of titles that matches this in white, and then our second row that's slightly grayed is in gray. And this is all also customizable. So if you're taking a look at any of your reports, or I would suggest, if you're planning on using Essos and haven't started, or you are using Essos and are slightly frustrated with the reporting aspect of it all, open up some of these reports and print out the first page, start getting the red marker and putting in your notes. Where would the information be better? What's going to be helpful for you? Give us a call then, and let's set up an appointment just so we can go ahead and edit that report for you and make it exactly what you need. For me, I'd want a special order unfilled report that, with detail, and essentially I can jump to the end if I just wanted to see a summarized version. But I want to make sure that it has description 1 and description 2, because the description 2 is really important to the way I need to order or anything. All right, go ahead and close this up. Now, remember, our journals are going to be that more detailed information. We do also have summaries. So here is my Esso fulfillment report. Let me go ahead and run this. I'm gonna run this guy open as well. I don't have too much data going on. Okay, so our Esso fulfillment report essentially focuses on one Esso per page. So, oh, sorry, I'm like moving around so much. So the top of it shows you the Esso. We have our shipping, and then we have our billing address. Then it gives you all of the information summarized about that Esso, followed by the item level detail. And then it'll show you the percentage unfilled. So this is 100% unfilled. There is only one item on this Esso, and I have not given them that one item, 100% unfilled. Next. So this is also looking at some of my inactives. So that's something I'd want to add to my filter. But over here, again, units unfilled, 0%, unfilled is 0. This is something I can filter out. I don't really care to look at this. This has already been handled and done. I might want to look into a little bit. Balance due is a negative 80 cents. So this is a good example of something that might have been an SO, a special order, and I may have overcharged them. When I finally got the item in, it turned out to be 88 cents less. Being an honest retailer, I'm going to pass that savings to the client, and I'm going to go ahead and return them that 88 cents, or we just change the price. But that's just between you and the trainer. All right. And like I said, this is going to focus on one SO per. If you guys have not looked at this report, although it does say summary, it gives you a lot of detail, in my opinion, for a summary. It's one of my favorites. And it's one of the ones that is, in my opinion, the easiest to customize without the ability to customize. how you run the filter for this report drastically changes what the outcome is and how the outcome is organized. All right. And so again, that separation of the original store versus a processed store or process at store where the final sale ultimately took place. Multi-store environments are going to go ahead and probably like to use that, but you might also just want to run it completely open. Take a look at both. All right. So miscellaneous questions, we kind of already did cover this already too. So deleting sales orders, remember that you can delete anything that does not have a balance. It essentially works just like a purchase order. It is a planning document and does not affect anything in your inventory. If it does have a deposit balance on it though, you want to make sure that if you do not want to give it as store credit, we have to remove the deposit before we inactivate the SO. And we can do that using those negative quantities in our deposit screen. If you are fine with store credit, or that is your preferred method anyways, then you can just inactivate the SO. Prior to inactivating the SO, just make sure that that's the right customer, the right SO. That's really the only thing. Right customer, right SO. Inactivate it. That deposit will then move to store credit, and they can use that store credit, to purchase anything later. Now, the system preferences involved, we will go ahead and take a look at that one more time. So from our main screen, you are looking for options and system preferences. For some people, they have system preferences already pulled out. In that case, it would just be this little system preferences icon. Now, remember, we're going to go down to local preferences, and we're going to go to point of sale, sales orders, and the meat of things is under options. Comments are just default comments and instructions, and then order status is just sales order types, essentially. But here we can go ahead and set up minimums and whether they are required or suggested. Information here that is not required, that just means they have the option of doing it or not. You can go above, you can go below, and you could say none at all. Remember, we have our sales order options, when we can record the sale, and whether or not recording the sale will automatically happen after we take our final deposit. I would final highlight on that automatically record the sale after the final deposit. That does not allow people to do things like partial pickups. It will sell everything all in one. Now, that is not necessarily a bad thing. I do want to remind people that essentially if somebody is going to pick it up tomorrow, but they're doing over the phone, they want to charge your card, they're going to have somebody pick up for them. Great, I'll go ahead and take that phone over, or I'll take that over the phone. I'll charge it. It will automatically record the sale. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to hang on to that receipt, put it with their items, and move it off to the side. That sale will now be part of today's numbers, of course, and we need to understand that. But ultimately, Retail Pro doesn't care. The inventory is already gone. It can still be sitting at your store, and tomorrow the person can come pick it up. But, our defaults still work in those moments. All right. Trying to make sure I didn't miss any questions. And it looks like, no, we're all attached. And so do we have any other questions that people might have? To be a good time to ask anything, even if you think it's a little bit more specific to your setup. We have the time. Other than that, we have gone over everything on my agenda for today. If you guys are interested in any of the documents, layouts, or reports that we were looking at and you don't have them, please let me know. I can make sure that we actually attach them to the email that I'm going to go ahead, or that our service department is going to send out with this link. So I'm going to hang out for a little bit. If you have questions, please feel free. But other than that, I want to thank you all for joining me on this webinar. I hope that you guys got a chance to learn something new or got that refresher, just that one little thing that you were missing. Again, my name is Liz with Big Hairy Dog. I'm a trainer here at, oh, thank you so much, Anne. Appreciate you joining us and giving us your questions. Before I officially drop my screen, all right. So this is my email, lizm@bighairydog.com. If you think of a question as soon as you leave, feel free to just email me. You can also email tech@bighairydog.com. And of course, the tech@bighairydog.com will go ahead and get you on our tech board, especially if there's something going on. Your Essos don't quite work the same that mine did. We definitely want to go ahead and check out those system preferences first. And if they are the same, but we're still having a bit of issues, we might want to get you on the tech board. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you guys so much again. Like I said, I'll stick around for a few minutes. Have a great rest of your day. All right. So it has been a few minutes, and it looks like we don't have any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions, feel free to email us or give us a call. We'll be happy to go ahead and chat. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.